three main topics we're going to be covering today for how to recruit for product management specifically as a broader career. I'm going to go briefly into resumes and cover letters, and then Jonathan will cover more of the nitty-gritty part of networking, applying, as well as interview preparation and how to go through case studies. So yeah, I already did the brief introductions, but Jonathan, if you want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Jonathan. As it says on the slide, I'm a senior in BHP MIS biology, incoming APM at Roblox. I did the True Ventures Fellowship in the past, and over the last year, I interviewed with Apple, Lyft, Uber for their APM programs, as well as McKinsey. Made it to the final rounds for most of them, and then secured some offers from some of them as well. So excited to have you guys here. Hope you guys can learn a lot. And yeah, make sure if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, for sure. And then also Jonathan also introduced me to the True Ventures Fellowship, which is where I will be interning this summer as a product management intern for one of their portfolio companies called LoanSnap. All right, so very briefly, just wanted to quickly touch on what exactly is product management. As you can see, we kind of talk about it as the CEO of the product. What's really cool and what attracted me initially to PM as a career is that it lies at the intersection of design, technology, and business. So what does this actually mean? Well, you're the product manager, you're the person that's interfacing with all three of these different types of teams. So you'll be able to gain experience working not only on more of the product development side, so actually building it and working with a team of engineers, but you're also going to play an important role in guiding the UI UX designers into actually designing the interface of the product, as well as coming up with different strategies that will help the company itself generate revenue from the product that you're building. So essentially, some of the day-to-day tasks that a PM really does is more on the conducting research side of things and acting on product feedback. So really understanding who you're building a product for, who are going to be your customers and your potential users, and then developing both a strategy on how to develop the actual product itself. So think of like a product roadmap, and then coordinating amongst a bunch of teams. And so outside of these, sometimes you'll also interface with investors and shareholders as well on that front. And you can kind of focus on being sort of that person that wears many different hats. I know from my experience interviewing for PM roles, what most PMs will tell you is that you really have to be very adaptable and dynamic to both a changing environment and also being able to learn things on the fly in order to answer questions or better address like what the product is actually going to do. Not sure if Jonathan wants to add anything else in that front, but if not, I'll go on to sort of the resumes and stuff like that. But that's just a really brief high-level overview of what exactly product management is. All right, so going into the different types of programs, again, Jonathan, please just like cut in if you want to add anything.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and cut in really quickly. The PM roles that you're gonna get recruited for out of college are usually going to be called APM roles or RPM roles. This stands for Associate Product Management Positions or Rotational Product Management Positions. Usually, these programs last around 2 years, and they'll have around 2 to 4 rotations between different teams because product managers, there's not just one product manager who's in charge of everything. Right? At Facebook, for example, you'll have a product manager who's in the groups team, or they'll have someone in the messenger team, or they'll have someone in the commenting team. And so the purpose of the rotational and associate product management programs is to really mentor and teach the next generation of leadership at these companies. And so the reason why there are very, very few APM jobs and even very few PM jobs is because historically, this job was actually just meant for engineers, right? Engineers were the only ones who were building technology. But then they realized, as products grew, as they got bigger, it was really, really hard to actually get everything done and to settle on a goal and to have a person lead the team. So people started creating product management positions. And usually these are very experienced engineers who are really, really good at leading their teams. APM programs are usually executive sponsored, which means that you're going to be the last people to be fired at the company. And they're also usually really, really small cohorts. So the smallest cohorts that I know of are around 5 people or 3 people. And then the largest cohorts you'll see at Google of around 40 people. And they keep it really, really small because they want to focus on them and really develop them, as well as make them the future leadership of the company. Cool.
All right, cool. So now on to resumes and cover letters. So we'll just kind of walk through a couple examples of each. First, going into resumes. So what is so important about this document? Well, it really is there to provide a really great snapshot of your experience. So this means, it's yourself on one sheet of paper. It's your opportunity to stand out, make a good impression, and just persuade the recruiter on why they should hire you, essentially, from that one sheet of paper. Some broader, like high level things of what recruiters will be looking for in someone that is fitting for a product management role. First is leadership. So do you have any past experiences where you've shown initiative and taken a leadership role amongst a team? Second is technical expertise. This can kind of vary depending on the company that you're interviewing for. So I know that specifically like Google, for example, for their APM role, they prefer someone with coding experience or a CS background, whereas other companies such as say Indeed don't necessarily prioritize technical experience. So it's really about knowing the company and knowing what they're looking for. Third, and something that I think is actually really important and what a lot of companies really like, is showing entrepreneurial initiatives. So what does this mean? Well, this can be something like straight up, like if you're interested in founding a startup. If you founded a startup, that shows entrepreneurship, but it can also take a bunch of other forms, such as if you were very involved in a certain activity on campus, or you took the initiative to actually create something and build something through like personal projects, and showcasing that on, say, a website, or providing a link on your resume. That's also something that kind of shows that drive and that intellectual curiosity. Lastly, like, is being a problem solver. This is more so looked for in the interview process, but you can also find ways to showcase the fact that you've solved a lot of problems, or developed more of an analytical and thoughtful process and types of thinking through your resume and your past experiences. Just overall being just like a very involved, passionate, self-driven, and top student is, going to be helpful for most roles as well. So talking about the resume itself, we just kind of outlined a couple of key sections to focus on and kind of showcase your skills for your resume and for the PM role. So obviously as students, most people will put their education, their skills, and some of their tools that they've had experience working with at the top, before above else, just because, if you're a current student, having education at the top is the first thing that people will see. This is an example. Obviously, this is Jonathan's resume. And you can see at the top, it just shows basics of education and then relevant like skills, as well as courses you've taken. That's kind of where the technical aspect comes in, where you're showcasing your skills. So languages that you've coded in, databases, or data-oriented programming languages that you've had experience in, that shows the technical part. And then for like design / product, that's more interdisciplinary, coming in with the UI UX part of the job. So like Figma is one, it's a prototyping software. And if you have experience with that, that also helps. And then I would say like for courses, that just kind of shows some of your past experiences, and obviously adds on to the technical side when you're recruiting for a more technical role. The second kind of broader, most important kind of section is your work experience. This is the perfect place to showcase any background experience you've had, both if you're coming from a technical major as well as a non-technical major. I can kind of briefly touch on what it's like to recruit for PM as a non-technical major, because I'm in the business school. So I guess like for further context, like before recruiting this year for next summer's internship, like I had no PM experience before, but I did work on a startup, and that's kind of where I got most of my like development experience. And so I put that experience at the top of my work experience section and really highlighted it. And so you want to kind of organize your resume in the order of what's most relevant to the PM role. So kind of going off of that, that's kind of the way that you did it. And then obviously here, Jonathan, if you want to add anything, since this is your resume, go ahead, like go for it.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions about like education, skills, coursework, what links you should give, or work experience? Anything at all? Nope. Okay, then I guess you guys have perfect resumes already. Cool. So yeah, I mean, Kelly pretty much said it all. As a PM, you know, it's at the intersection of technology, business, and design. So you want to give them and you want to show them that you have those skills. Maybe you're really, really good at design. Maybe that's your spike. Maybe you're really, really good at tech. Maybe you created some really awesome entrepreneurial projects. No matter what the case is, you want to highlight your most recognizable and your most, I guess, impressive achievements at the top. Because remember, they're scanning your resume from the top down. And as soon as they hit something that they don't like within their 6 seconds of scanning, then they're completely just going to throw your resume to the side. Cool.
Okay, so kind of filling in a little bit of the sections that we talked about. So for skills, I kind of wanted to highlight like the 3 main areas that you want to kind of bring out are involved with technical, design, and business. So for example, like Jonathan just said, like where would you say you have a spike and what can you emphasize that you bring to the table through your resume? So for example, as someone who's coming from say a computer science or engineering background, you want to highlight the amount of languages that you've had experience in, what you're proficient in, and what you have the most technical expertise in. If you're coming from a non-technical major, you want to emphasize that yes, you have limited experience in programming, but you have all this experience in design as well as business that you can bring to the table that would provide a different strength and diversity to the team. And so as like non-technical majors, you kind of want to focus on that and kind of differentiating yourself against the competition, since you would be going up against, you know, CS majors and people who have technical expertise. And then in terms of tools, like those are just a couple of examples, just different coding languages as well as software slash online interfaces that you'd use that other PMs use as well. Okay. So next is the project section. So I felt like education experience is overall self-explanatory, but outside of technical majors, like speaking, like I realize like a lot of the anecdotes I'll be making is as a non-technical major, but projects was, I thought, a very unique section of the resume. And this is for all of your side projects and things that you worked on that are like, you know, outside of school and just personally shows your passion and commitment to building technology products. Because, you know, fundamentally as a product manager, you know, you should be a person that's passionate about creating technology and wanting to build these products for these larger companies or on your own, and really showing initiative. So, you know, within each project section, you'd have like the name of the project and then a brief description and specifically what role you played and what contribution you made to the team. And, you know, whether this be a team project or an individual project, it's really great to highlight what role you played and whether or not you played a leadership role on that team as well. So this is going into how Jonathan organized it. And so like you can see like he kind of combined projects and honors into one section, but on top is like highlighted leadership experience. And what's really great about this is actually giving like very tangible examples of like where he was a leader. Like he founded, you know, he co-founded TPO and was the president. That's great. And that created this really large organization that's helping a lot of people. And through his resume, you can really see that that's impacting and making a huge impact on, UT as a whole and the student community. And then with projects and honors, that's definitely showing like what each project was, as well as combining like a brief description of it and whether or not, it was a part of a competition or anything like that. And so you can see very clearly the different things that, this person has done and where they've played a huge role in building and designing a certain product or taking a leadership role. So that's something that's really important to highlight, as a PM when you're recruiting as well. But yeah, this is just like a broader level. But does anyone have any questions like about resumes or anything before we move on to the cover letter section?
Yeah, I'll just add on one last thing. Your resume is obviously super important. Recruiters spend 6 seconds looking at it, and you want to make sure that it's really, really good, because this is going to be the deciding factor, one of the most important deciding factors in getting the job or getting the first interview.
All right, cool. I'll try to like go a little bit faster because I feel like I've been going a little bit too slow. But I'll just speed through cover letters. Obviously, this is just a short letter that kind of goes along with resumes. When you're applying to companies, like most companies will ask for a cover letter, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they read it. But you still just want to put your best foot forward and make sure that they have a good impression. And always treat any sort of written piece that you send to a company as an opportunity for you to stand out and just make that impression, of on the recruiter when they're reading your application. So before writing, there's just like a couple of things that we thought we would go through on what to think about before you actually start writing the letter. First is curating the letter to the job that you're applying to. I know that sounds pretty intuitive, but you want to personalize it both to each company as well as the position to which you're applying to, and reread your letter once you've written it to make sure there's no typos or there's no like small mistakes. Attention to detail is very important here in actually just like conveying your strengths. Some good things to talk about are just real world accomplishments as well as real life examples of what you've done in the past that you can kind of talk to a little bit more in depth through the letter. So here is just like a basic template. First, only have it be one page. That goes for your resume too. It's just like convention. Only have things on one page. When you have like a 2-page resume or a 2-page cover letter, it's just a little bit odd. So make sure to keep it to one page and make it really readable as well. So going into the different sections, first is just a general introduction that's stating like who you are, why are you excited about this position, and maybe about what got you interested in product management as a whole, and how do you as a candidate as well as in the long term relate your goals to this position as well. So this is just like a brief example of an introduction from a cover letter to Apple, and this just shows that the candidate is expressing their interest in the specific role. You actually list out the specific role that you're applying to, and then kind of briefly talk about yourself and your past experiences, and just make sure that they relate to showing why you're interested in that actual role with this company that you're recruiting for. And that kind of just shows a really brief outline. You can kind of think of it as like you're telling me about yourself paragraph. Kind of relating to your past experiences to the role itself. Second section is the body of the paragraph, where the actual like meat and like information is. And this is basically just the convincing part of your cover letter, telling why you're such a great candidate and outlining specific examples from your work and your skills on why exactly are you a great fit for the role, and talking about your accomplishments. You can also talk about, say, like specific projects, as well as what your values are and how you match the company's culture. Kind of give them an idea of how you'd fit in on the team and what you would contribute to. And again, this is another brief example. I believe we'll probably be sending the deck out, so you guys can kind of go through the actual letter itself and just read through the example. But this is basically just outlining first some of the things that as a candidate you can bring to the table. So I think this was a great job of outlining the specific points. First is a communicative and understanding technology strategist. Second, a product focused problem solver. And third, a passionate leader. And after highlighting each of those characteristics, talking through a real life example of how this candidate has done so in their real life.
Yeah, cover letters are really,
yeah.
I mean, cover letters are just, you just have to write them. No one's actually going to read them. So literally just have a template, have some sections where you copy and paste stuff, and literally just find all, replace the name, and maybe write one sentence that makes it specific to that company. But it's really not that deep. Usually what recruiters will do is they'll filter through all the applicants by saying, okay, I want all the applicants who like have over this GPA and also who have a cover letter. And then that's just something that you have to have. So just give a cover letter. Cool.
Yep. And then lastly is just closing, which I think is pretty intuitive. Just reiterating your interest in the role and then thanking the company. And that's just like briefly, like don't forget like your name and your email and your contact information and maybe like a URL. Just closing yourself. But I think that part's pretty self-explanatory. But yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take over. Thanks so much, Kelly. Did a great job. Make sure you have a resume and a cover letter before you start applying to places. Seriously, super important. Okay, cool. Let's get into my sections. We have a lot to cover, so I hope you guys are paying attention. This is some primo information, guys. I mean, you guys just wait. It's I'm gonna pass a lot of knowledge. Cool. Can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see it? Cool. All right, let's do it. So, what are referral blurbs? Referral blurbs are something that you want to give to someone who is referring you to a company. It's usually going to be a couple sentences or a paragraph describing you, and your referrer is going to give it to the recruiter. And it's essentially guaranteed to be seen by the recruiter, and you need to make this good. So here's an example. I wrote this to one of the heads of Google APM, someone who is an APM at Google, and here's my blurb. Jonathan is a scrappy, smart, hardworking builder. I actually really don't want to read this because it's kind of cringe that I would read it to myself. It's just one of those things, but you get the idea. You really want to sell yourself. This is something where it's just a cover letter maybe, but a lot more condensed. You put your just most impressive stuff, and you want to keep this around because hopefully everywhere you're applying, you're getting a referral. And really, really good referrals are actually direct emails to the recruiter who's in charge of essentially deciding whether or not you get an interview. So this is something that I sent to the Google APM person. Sick. Networking. Do you guys know what networking is? I mean, you're BHP majors, some of you are, some of you aren't. You should know what it is. It's super, super important. Here's a statistic for you guys. 80% of jobs in Silicon Valley are gotten through networking or are gotten through a referral. So do you want to be a part of the 80% or do you want to be a part of the 20%? Of course you want to be a part of the 80%. Cool. So how do you network with people? Number one, LinkedIn. I know it's cringe. I know it's just, oh God. Sometimes it's so toxic, but it actually works really, really well to network with people. So cold message people you admire, but what works really, really well is if you have some sort of if you have some sort of connection with the person that you're messaging. Not a physical connection, that's weird. Okay, cool. So like, for example, I'll message UT alum. I'll message people who have worked at the same place as me in the past. I'll message people who are interested in the same fields as me. And the best people to message if you are applying to any position is literally message the person who is in the position that you want and get them to refer you, because that works really, really well. But yeah, there are some other communities like Jumpstart and stuff, and you can obviously network with people on Twitter, but that's gonna take a little bit more time. It's a little bit weirder, less structure. So what should you do on a networking call? Well, obviously you want to know more about what they do at their job. You want to know about their company, you want to know about their culture, you want to know about what they do on a day-to-day basis. But let's be real, you also low-key want a referral. Like that's why you're hitting this person up, right? Cool. So obviously have some questions there, have some questions ready about the company. Sell yourself a little bit, but like low-key sell yourself. And then at the end, ask for a referral. People get busy, so it's totally cool to follow up. And obviously don't be weird, don't be a jerk, don't be any of those things. Be really, really gracious that that person is spending time with you. And then, once you're in that position in the future, give it back. And it really doesn't hurt to ask. You will not believe how many people I've gotten to speak to me randomly. And I like literally don't even know these people. So yeah. Cool. So here are some examples of some cold messages that I've sent out. Here is a person that I sent a message to on Google, who's a PM at Google. It's very, very simple. Hi, Casey. My name's Jonathan. I'm a senior BHB student at UT, interested in product. Just finished a PM internship at Roblox. Could we possibly schedule a call to talk about how you got into product? And she misspells my name. Totally cool though, because she gave me a referral. No biggie. Here's another person named Michael. We worked at the same venture capital firm together. I said, hey, Michael, I worked at the same VC firm as you. I'm also from UT Austin. And I'm interviewing with Uber right now as an APM. Wondering if we could hop on a call so I could learn more. It's literally that simple. Start with their name. After that, tell them how you are connected to them somehow. We went to the same school. We like the same things. We worked at the same job, whatever. And yeah, then hop on a call and get that info, get that referral, and hopefully you've made a connection for life. 6, so here is how you can cold message recruiters. It's honestly not that effective. The best way to get in contact with a recruiter is if someone at the company has a personal relationship with that recruiter and then emails them and introduces you guys. I wouldn't go about LinkedIn cold messaging recruiters, although you can do it. I've heard of people who have gotten jobs this way. I just personally haven't. Okay, 6, so whenever you get a referral, usually there will be forms or portals or whatever to write in your name, write in who's referring you, etc. This is something that I sent to my friend at Lyft, and she referred me. And I got all the way to the final round for the Lyft APM program. I'll send out the deck. You guys can look at this later, but it's literally just the same thing as the referral blurb earlier, except maybe a little bit better. Yeah. Cool. And then, like I was saying earlier, you have referral portals for really, really big companies. And then, it's literally like a form. And even then at big companies, when you get referrals, sometimes they're not that effective. The most effective way to get a referral, although the hardest way to get a referral, is referral by email. And literally emailing the person who is going to decide whether or not you get an interview. So if you look at the screen, I have 2 emails that I wrote. One email was to introduce Kelly. And as you can see, I boosted the hell out of her. And just because you give her a referral for someone, that doesn't mean that they're going to get the job. It means that they get an interview, right? So obviously Kelly earned it. She did an incredible job with her interview. And then the second one is an email that I sent off to the recruiter of Roblox. And yeah, as you can see, I boost them up real well. This is what you want your referrer, if you have a really good relationship with them, to do for you. Cool. Yeah, and I mean, you just say like, this person's awesome. I've worked with them before. They would be an incredible, recruit. So yeah, in terms of applying, I'm sure you guys know this already, but you want to cast a huge net. A lot of the times with PM internships, they are so competitive. Maybe you apply to 100 and you hear back from 1, or maybe you apply to 200 and you hear back from none, right? You just really don't know. So I would really recommend to apply everywhere. If you are a TPO fellow, obviously check out the TPO referral bank, but you guys are all UT students. So if you guys want referrals, or if you're interested in something or you want to talk to someone, just look us up on LinkedIn and obviously reach out. And then there are some online job boards that are really, really good and that show all the different APM programs. So the one that I really recommend is apmlist.com. It literally has every single APM job that there is. And obviously you can use Jumpstart, LinkedIn, AngelList, you can Google jobs. Or if you're trying to do a PM internship at a startup, obviously reach out to someone through LinkedIn. Just super quickly, you guys can see my screen, right? Yeah, super quickly, I'd like to just show you guys apmlist.com. This is like all the different APM programs. So these are all the APM programs. So it's like not that long of a list. And as you can see, there are very low numbers of spots. So obviously it's like, this is a very competitive thing, but would recommend looking at this list and yeah, obviously just applying to every single one of them. Yeah, so this is sort of a list of the top APM programs. As you can see, they have like really, really low spots and a lot of rounds of interviewing. And that's pretty much the product recruiting experience. A lot of low spots, a ton of applicants, and a shit ton of rounds. So if you want to recruit for product management, just know that it's gonna suck. But it is what it is. You're the one who signed up for it, not me. Cool. Onwards we go. So this is just an example of like what some of the APM numbers can look like. So I got this from Roblox. Obviously, don't share it with everyone, but as you can see, this is what the numbers for 2019 and 2020. In 2019, we hired like 2 APMs and then we had 10 interns. And then in 2020, we had like 1,300 applications. And then at the end of the day, we hired 14 people. So that's like around 1%-ish. And that's at Roblox, which is definitely not as well known as like a Google or an Uber. So at these places, you have like 10K plus applicants for 10 spots. And that's pretty much the story at like every single APM program. I would say at every single APM program, it's less than a 1% or around a 1% acceptance rate. So obviously, now I'm going to tell you guys how to get it, right? Like how to work hard, how do you finesse, how do you get this creme de la creme, right? Well, I don't really know. I kind of know. So that's what we're going to get into. Number one, stay organized and start working on recruiting way before recruiting even opens up. So I would absolutely recommend you guys to either use Notion or Excel to have a list of every single company that you're potentially interested in. The role, maybe a link, and the due date. And you guys can scan this QR code. You can get the template yourself. But the reason why this is really important is because to maximize your chances to get an interview, which is the hardest part, to get an interview, you have to network. You have to get a referral. You have to have a really, really good cover letter for that. And you want to track all of those things. And you want to be the very first person to apply too. Because think about it, when an application opens up, thousands of people apply. And whenever someone's checking out resumes, whose resumes are they going to check first? The people who apply first. So apply first, get a referral, make your resume super good, have a really great cover letter, and that is the best way to maximize your chances of getting an interview. Cool. And also you can use this application tracking to see which companies you've gotten referred to, which ones you've cold applied to. It's super, 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 super helpful. Highly recommend. Cool. Now let's get into the interview. So this is really just general interview prep, and then we're going to go dive a little bit deeper into product-specific interview prep. So for any interview, you want to have an elevator pitch and behavioral questions. I will stop right now because I know I've gone over a lot of content. Does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to blaze through this. Cool.
Wait, Jonathan, so that jump from like the number of applications you had to the number of resumes reviewed, is that through like those automated tracking systems or whatever?
Yeah, it's through the ATS system. It's also through referrals. So usually they're going to review resumes that have been referred.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So as you can see, it went from 1,300 applications to only 80 resumes that were reviewed, 30 interviews that were proposed, 26 actual ones that happened, 20 offers, and 14 people who accepted. Cool. Cool. All right, so what is an elevator pitch? Does anyone here not know what an elevator pitch is? Otherwise, I can skip it. Okay, cool. So the one specific thing about an elevator pitch for product is you want to include experiences, obviously, that relate to product management, how you got into it, why you'd be a good fit. And this is really important because this can sort of set the tone for the rest of the interview. This is usually the very first question that someone asks. tell me about yourself, you know, and you should go about doing this. You know, if you guys are scared and like you actually don't know what an elevator pitch is, feel free to like message me later. But yeah, know your elevator pitch. Okay, and in terms of behavioral questions, these are super important, right? Because as a product manager, they're not hiring a software engineer. They're not hiring a designer. They want you to be able to communicate well, and they want to make sure that you have empathy. So make sure your behaviorals are like free throws. You know, go through your behaviorals, practice them beforehand, make sure you can tell them why you want to work for the company, why that company is a great fit for you. And obviously have questions at the end, because at every interview at the end, they say, do you have any questions for me? And that's a time where you can really go and show how interested and, you know, great you are for it. Okay, so most behavioral questions will fall into a few buckets: teamwork, leadership, solving a conflict, a time you failed, personal impact, time of success. Do you guys want me to go over the STAR method? Otherwise, I can breeze over it. You have to unmute because I can't see your guys' faces if you want me to go over this. Okay, wow, we have some experts here. Awesome. So I assume you guys have gotten just like tons and tons of offers already. Okay, cool. So I'll just go over it super quickly if just no one's speaking up. STAR is a way that you can answer a question that's behavioral with a story. So when these product interviewers are asking you questions, they're trying to understand whether you'd be a good fit for the team, whether you're entrepreneurial, whether you have technical experience, and you know whether you would be a really good team player. So STAR stands for situation, task, action, result, right? So if someone said, okay, what's a time that I faced adversity? Well, the situation was I was trying to start TPO and it was really, really hard to convince people. What was the task? I had to convince a ton of people to join my org, even though it didn't exist. What was the action that I took? I went ham marketing and, you know, sent a message in every single group me in the entire world. And the result is we had like over 100 people apply, and it was really awesome. And, you know, everyone lived happily ever after. So that's how you answer a behavioral question. Obviously make it a little bit more polished, but that's it. Cool. Now let's talk about some classic product questions. Okay. So really the only classic product questions that you're going to have are, what's your favorite product? Why? How would you improve it? And they're going to say stuff like, okay, open up an app on your phone, or look at the product that we currently have for this company. Tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you don't. The way to answer this question is you have to prepare for it beforehand. Come up with ideas of how to improve the company's product and some features that you would like to see before you go into the interview. Make sure you have a favorite product down and really dive into it. We could spend a lot of time on this, but essentially the framework for this, you can look it up online. But what I like to do is I say, you know, so-and-so is my favorite product. Here are my criteria for a good product. It's intuitive, you know, it's utilitarian, so it's very useful to people. And lastly, it's innovative. And, you know, the product is intuitive because it's super easy to use. You know, even old people use it. It is really utilitarian because millions of people use it every day to do this awesome task. And here are the different features of the product that are being used for it. And then lastly, it's super innovative because no one has ever done this before. And here are the features that have, you know, totally changed the way that social media works. So that's how you answer those questions. Cool. All right, now let's talk about the PM interview process. This is the primo stuff that literally nobody knows about. And I didn't even know about until I went through the process. So what does it look like to recruit as an APM? What does it look like to, you know, recruit for one of these super coveted positions of associate product managers? So obviously first you apply. So let's say you get the interview, right? Well, the first thing that they do is, you know, they don't actually want to talk to you yet. They want to make sure that you're, you know, can give them a good idea that you're smart. So they'll give you a product homework, which essentially says, hey, give us a free idea of a feature that's really, really good and tell us why we should use it. That's free labor right there. I don't know. That's kind of sketchy to me, but it is what it is. The second one is a product design question. They give you a prompt like, okay, design an elevator for blind people. And you have to go about and design that product in real time. Third are technical questions. These really don't come up as often, but they're not going to be coding questions. They're not going to be algorithm questions. They're going to be system design questions. So not so much computer science, but more so software engineering. How do you design a scalable system like Dropbox? If I wanted to recreate YouTube, how would I go about doing that? Et cetera, et cetera. And then the last one is execution questions. So you already have the idea of the product set in front of you. How do you go about actually creating it? What's the timeline that you're going to create it? Should you create it? What are the metrics that you're going to measure? How do you know that this is going to be successful? How can you justify to the CEO that you should actually create this product? And in a nutshell, that's everything that you need to know about the PM interview process. So let's dive a little bit deeper into it. So this is step one, right? Step one is applying. And as you can see, I applied on the 29th when the application opened. And on the 27th, I was a little bit lacking, but I texted my friend who worked at Lyft and I said, yo, Claire, can you refer me to the Lyft APM program? And she said, yeah, send me a resume and answer a couple of questions. So I applied on the 29th. And this is the blurb that I gave her because as you remember, you have to have a referral blurb when you get referred and you have to make it sound like the other person wrote it, when in reality, they're almost never going to write it. So you got to write it beforehand. Cool. So the next step, 12 days later, this comes into my email. And I also added the one from Apple. I also got one from Uber. But yeah, so essentially it's like, yay, cool, we think you're a good fit. But first, you're gonna have to give us some free ideas because that's how we roll. So they gave me a product homework. And this happened for Lyft, this happened for Apple, this happened for Uber. It's gonna happen for any competitive APM program. Well, not all of them, but most competitive APM programs that you're going to be applying to. The real ones are the ones that don't force you to do a homework, but it is what it is. The questions, so yeah, this was the homework. Essentially, every single homework is the same. They give you some context about the company and they say, propose a new feature for Lyft, propose a new feature for Apple or Uber. So as you can see from here, Lyft was asking me, they were like, okay, Lyft is trying to improve people's lives through, transportation. And then Lyft says, analyze the space, put together an entire product cycle for the solution you choose to pursue, whatever. So I linked the homework instructions and I linked the homework assignment. I can go through this or I can keep going. Are you guys interested in going through the product homework really quickly or should we just move on?
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty interesting to go through.
All right, Evan, thank you. I'm glad at least someone's interested here. Okay, so this is the APM homework that I created. It's 4 pages, very low margin, so I could fit in a lot of stuff. But here I'm actually following the product design framework. So the product design framework is used whenever you're answering a product design question, which is usually like, how do you improve a feature? What's a new feature that we should create and why? So the first thing is you want to identify a problem, right? And so my problem was, well, actually, first you start with the users, my bad. First you start with the users, then you go to their problems. After the problems, you identify the key problems that you want to solve. Then you come up with some ideas to solve those problems. You judge and you trade off the differences between your different solutions. And then you focus on one solution that's the best. You tell them why it's the best. And then afterwards you say, here's how we would go about implementing it and testing it to see that it's actually the best. So yeah, first I started with the problem space definition. I did some analysis of the users, which is really, really important. You want to have users identify their problems and needs, as well as their motivations, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, okay, here's how we're going to define success. We want to reduce traffic and carbon output. We want to increase our brand image. We want to increase our number of users and decrease, the time that users spend in traffic. So then I start thinking of a whole bunch of features. I talk about their pros and their cons. Wow, this is so awesome. And then I say, okay, well, I chose this feature because it's the best. And I sort of said, the best ideas are these, and then, these features are complementary and the other ones are maybe not as good. So then I say, okay, I picked this one. Here's why it's good. Here is the feature list of things that we should implement in the future. And here is a roadmap of how we could go about implementing that feature. And here's how we could experiment to make sure that this feature would actually be successful. And then at the end, I give some risk and mitigants. Cool. Does anyone have any questions? No one has any questions. Awesome. Well, it seems like you guys are really, really quick readers because you read through all of that. Cool. So what is the product sense interview? It's product design. You guys can read through this really quickly, but TLDR, people are going to ask you to create a new feature or develop a new product. And they're trying to understand that you are empathetic with the user, that you understand how to build a product, that you're data-driven, that you have great decision-making skills, whatever. You want to make sure that you come into these questions with a framework, with a structure, that you know how it works. So make sure you do your research beforehand. Watch a lot of YouTube videos of professionals doing this. By professionals, I mean people who've gone to jobs, who are PMs. I learned a lot of my tips and tricks of how to do these interviews from YouTube and literally watching other people do interviews. So how do you answer the product design question? I sort of went over this in the homework that I went over, but you can use circles, which is a super popular framework. But essentially, the first thing is, how do I comprehend the situation? So before you go in and dive in, ask questions. Do I have any limitations on this? You know, are we releasing this on Android, iOS, or web, or all of them? Are we releasing this in a certain country? All of that stuff. You want to understand the situation and ask, what is our goal? Is it to increase the number of users that we have on the platform? Is it to make more money? Is it to, you know, engage our current users more? What is our goal? And based on that goal, you want to go about creating a feature that is going to solve and improve and reach that goal. So after you have your context questions, after you understand what the goal is, say, okay, well, I think that we should have these metrics to measure success. And here are the customers that currently use our platform, okay? Based on those customers, you're then going to talk about customer needs, AKA their pain points. So, you know, yeah, we'll get to an example, but after you come to the pain points and the customers, you're going to want to focus on 1 to 2 specific pain points. And you're going to justify at every single step why you chose this. You know, here are the questions I'm asking and why. Here are the customers that are important, and here's why that relates to the goal. Here are the customers' needs and pain points that are most important, and tie that back to the goal and the success metrics. I'm going to choose these specific pain points because this relates back to our overall goal of increasing engagement. And I have these awesome solutions, these awesome features that we could create that are going to solve these pain points at the very top that we defined earlier. And then lastly, obviously trade off all the different features that you have and then summarize it, give it like the CEO summary if you're speaking to the CEO. So the first round is usually a product design question. They want to make sure you're not an idiot, that you have done some research in product, that you can come up with new product ideas. And that's why they make it the first round. So at Lyft, they asked me, hey, can you design a product to reduce wait times at amusement parks and make it more fun? At Apple, they asked me, if you had unlimited budget and materials, tell me how you would design a desk for people during COVID-19. And at Uber, they told me to tell me, well, first tell me about yourself, but then how do you improve the pickup experience in Uber? And so all of these are going to follow the product design framework. I have, let's see, I probably have an explanation of the execution questions left and the final round. I can speed through everything really, really quickly, or we can go about showing you how to actually answer one of these questions. Do you guys want me to speed through it so we, reach the 1 hour deadline, or do you want me to probably go over another 20 minutes and sort of walk you guys through how to answer these questions?
I don't mind going over if everyone else is okay with that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, going over.
Okay.
Yep, same.
Cool. So I'm also recording this so you guys can look it over, and I'll send out the slide deck. Yeah, obviously don't snitch on me to Lyft, Apple, Uber, or Roblox that I'm sharing this stuff, because I may or may not have signed a non-disclosure agreement, but that's totally cool. All right, cool. Brandon, let's go ahead and walk through the Lyft question. Design a product to reduce wait times at amusement parks and make it more fun. So let's show everyone how we would go about doing this. Cool.
Cool. Yeah. So you just
Brandon, welcome to Lifts. So great to have you. We're really excited that you're interviewing for the APM program. So today I want you to design a product to reduce wait times at amusement parks and make it more fun.
cool. Awesome. So is that it for the prompt? Is there any kind of constraints that we're looking at here?
No, it's totally open. Whatever you think is most important.
Cool. So I'm just going to assume here, as it's in the question, the goal is just to decrease wait time. There isn't any other goals.
Right. And to make it more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So I guess the way I'm going to approach this is I'll first think of, the users for a amusement park. After that, I'll, look at a pain point, think of ways we can solve this pain point and prioritize some different features that we can do from there.
Awesome.
Does that sound okay?
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. Wait, do you want me to do just the whole question?
Yeah, but let's just do it quick.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll just say, yeah. So with an amusement park, honestly, the users for amusement park is everybody, all the park goers, and with the problem that you mentioned earlier with reducing wait times, that's someone that affects every single person in the park. So I'm going to go with that as the users instead of segmenting it. And the main pain point we've already listed out is that wait times are too long. So just a few solutions I can just think of off the top of my head. Maybe we could have signs throughout the park that have queue times for each ride. Maybe some sort of mobile application that everyone could download and ping them whenever certain rides are available. And there could also be some fast pass implementation here. Maybe just something, with some ticketing system across the park. You could do that mobile application also physically by pulling out a ticket and having a stamped time for whatever your ride and your turn for the ride is ready. There's just a few off the top of my head. I think, I'm going kind of fast, but from there I would just say, I think we should go with the mobile app idea because I think it's a cool way to implement digital, make our park have some digital aspect to it, and everyone has a smartphone, and then we can also ping for their locations. And I think it'd be a cool way to implement this solution.
Yeah, awesome job, Brandon. Obviously, these interviews usually take 30 minutes, so you're going to spend 30 minutes going through this question. Brandon sort of gave you a really quick and dirty answer to the question, and sorry for putting you on the spot like that, Brandon. We did not prepare coming in. He did not know.
You're good.
Yeah, I mean, overall, that's what you want to do. Obviously, spend more time on it than Brandon did because it's a 30-minute interview and you don't want to answer it in 30 seconds. But overall, really, really good. Cool. So let's go into the second round. What does the second round usually look like? Well, it usually looks like an execution question. What's an execution question? Is it going to kill you? Maybe, hopefully not. So what an execution question really is it is the second part. It's like the second step after product design. So once you have that idea, once you have that feature, how do you know whether it's going to be good or not, right? How do you determine whether we should implement this feature or a different feature? How do we measure success with that feature? How should we go about launching it? And as you can see, here's what Lyft said. Once again, it was another 30-minute interview. At Apple and Uber, there were 45-minute interviews, and they asked a little bit more questions. But essentially, they're going to ask you how you would strategically implement a product. And it's not, can you come up with ideas? It's how do you actually implement it? What are the trade-offs and how do you problem solve? Cool. And here's some, here's some more things that they talked about for the execution interviews. You want to make sure, as I've said a billion times, how do you measure success? How do you prioritize what to change next? How do you understand the issues of the product? What metrics can show me what the real issue is? Cool. Do we have any questions? Otherwise, I shall move on. Okay, yeah. And here's some things to be mindful of. You have to understand the goal. You have to measure the goal. You have to optimize the goal. Like I said, product managers, super goal-oriented. What was the goal for the amusement park? It was to reduce the wait times. How do you measure that? You measure that through the wait times. Okay, that's our main pain point. What's the feature that we're going to use? We're going to show queue time so people know whenever rides are super, super long to go at. They're going to be de-incentivized to go wait at those lines, and they're going to want to go somewhere else where there are less people, right? Always, always, always focus on the goal, focus on the key metric. All righty. So here's how you answer the execution questions. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, but it's all good because you guys are going to listen no matter what I say, hopefully. So 1, what's the goal? What are we trying to achieve? What are the success metrics for that goal? I'll talk a little bit about success metrics on the next slide. What's the feature? Really talk to me about how it would work. So something that you can do to, take some time and really think whenever you're on the spot is they give you a feature and you literally just talk through in the most common sense way. Okay, so a messaging feature works by having one person send something, usually a piece of text or an image or a video, to someone else. Is that correct in this scenario? Is there anything different about messaging that I should know about? Like, what is different, right? And so you want to evaluate the feature based on your success metrics. And then depending on your analysis, you want to say, yes, let's implement it, or no, we shouldn't. And if you say no, you should give a reason why, and you should say we should focus on other things. And if you say yes, you should give them a timeline on how to implement it. We should A/B test for X number of days for 1% of our users in this market. And if these success metrics reach over 80% or whatever, then we can start rolling it out to different markets. Cool? All right, so here are the different types of metrics. I know I'm literally throwing like so much at you guys right now. So obviously feel free to ask me any questions, but the key metrics can really be boiled down to acquisition, activation, retention, and then the last one is monetization. I guess I didn't put it on here, but monetization is pretty straightforward. So acquisition, are we getting users? Activation, are the users that we're getting actually using our app? Retention, are they staying on our app? And then the last one, monetization. If you guys have to ask me what monetization is, don't. Monetization, are we making money off of the users that we have? So here are just some metrics, and depending on the goal, usually there will be a goal: getting new users, getting the users to use the product, getting the users to stay on the product, or getting the users to give us more money. Like, usually there's a goal, or that's a goal that you want to concentrate on. And you can use these metrics to sort of solidify that goal. And these are your success metrics. Okay, yeah, so these are the questions that I was given for my execution rounds. Should all Airbnb listings have professional photos? How should that work? How would you implement it? At Apple, they wanted me to walk through a feature that I had proposed, justify why it was good, how I would implement it. And then at Uber, they said, okay, for Uber Elevate, which they sold, how would you figure out where to place the first 2 nodes or helicopter pads for pickup and drop off in Los Angeles? So obviously these are a very wide array of questions. They're really, really just trying to probe your brain to see if you have a strategic mind and if you can get through this stuff. But just follow the framework. What's the goal? How do we measure that goal? Okay, after we know that, right? What is the feature that we're trying to create? Or what are we trying to do? And does that align with the success metrics, right? And then, obviously, then justify whether or not you should have it. These are usually, execution questions are usually more back and forth with the interviewer and the, interviewee. So it's going to be a little bit different than product design. Do you guys want me to walk through how you would answer one of these questions? I can cold call one of you guys and we can try to figure it out, or we can just move on as well. You want me to do it? Shall we walk through it? Okay, it seems like you guys don't want me to walk through it. All good. Just look online on how people answer these questions. It's a little bit more off the top of the head than a product design question would be. So I personally found this a little bit more difficult. Cool. So, okay. I guess I kind of messed up the slides here, but TLDR, I got the final round for Lyft, and here's what the final round had. So on the final round, they started, it was like 3 hours, right? 1 hour chunk for each interview. The behaviorals or classic behaviorals, it's tell me about yourself, why Lyft, leadership, all that star stuff that I was talking about earlier. For product design, they said, how do you improve Lyft's public transit feature? And I came up with a whole bunch of different ideas for them, as well as some key ones. And then lastly is execution. So they said, identify metrics to measure the success for a food delivery app. And how does undersupply and oversupply of restaurants on the app have an effect on the marketplace? Which is preferable? Why? Cool. Here are a couple links to some resources that I highly recommend. One of them is written by one of my good friends at Roblox. His name is Devi. He is a cool guy. And I'll send you guys the slide deck afterwards so you can check it out. But it gives a lot of, okay, well, it shows up, but it gives a lot of really good information. And then the second one is something that I wrote that has helped me through the APM process. Okay, I have 2 more slides and then I'll open it up to any questions. So wrapping up. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory, but recruiting is really, 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 really hard. There are thousands of people applying for a very small number of positions, but you have to do your best to not give up and to try your best and to find any way in, right? A lot of this stuff comes down to a mix of luck and hard work. So if you do everything in your power to set yourself up with the right experiences, luck will come and find you. And you just got to be ready for the chances that you have. And I would say, don't let the rejections define you because they literally have spoken to you for like 30 minutes. How do they actually know anything about you, right? They don't. They just have to do their best guess, right? And then the last things that I have to say are obviously start working now, because you can't just learn everything that you need to learn or know to be a PM in a day or a week or a month. This is something that it's a lifestyle, bro. Okay, it's a lifestyle. You got to be built like this. I'm joking, of course, but it is better to start early, and it's better to identify the things that can help you down that path. And look, don't do things just because you think it's going to help you get a job. And I know that sounds very, very hypocritical coming from someone who is literally presenting to you guys on recruiting. But I promise you, if you look at my resume, all those things, I was actually really, really, really interested in, working at a robotics company, starting an org and all that different stuff. So do things that you actually care about, because you're just going to work so much harder and you're going to make something so, so much better if you actually care about it. And then the last thing is obviously come to TPO workshops, because we're going to drop that real truth on you guys and help you guys through the process. Cool. So that's about it. You can stay up to date with us on all of our different socials. We have a lot, but main ones, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Follow us, connect with us. That way you're going to know whenever our applications open up, whenever we're going to be having new workshops, all of those different things. Just keep up to date with us. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, if you wanna have an informational interview or something like that. But I guess that's product recruiting in a nutshell. I know we went over a lot of stuff, so feel free now to ask any questions, voice any concerns, literally anything. Damn, was I that bad? Y'all have like no questions or?
I guess my question was, I think a lot of the people here are business related, and I know that, or like come from a business background. At least there are some BHP kids, and I know that you and Kelly were both BHP. And I also had an informational interview with Derek like in fall semester, and he was just telling me that like he felt like it's harder to get in the door as a business person for these like product management type jobs. So would you say like you have any, would you say you agree with that? And then like, if you agree with that, like, do you have any tips for like, I guess, getting the edge, or like getting like maybe like formatting your resume in a different format to like not Do you look like a business person, or I don't know, just like any tips?
Look, yeah, you're definitely going to be at a disadvantage if you're not a CS major, right? But you're also going to be at a disadvantage because the people who are getting PM jobs, you know, like in my PM class, half of them go to Stanford and study CS. The other one goes to Princeton. Like, you know, it's like that kind of beat. So yes, you're going to be at a disadvantage, but at the same time, like, just put your best foot forward. I wouldn't say there's any magical resume that is somehow going to get you an interview everywhere, right? You have to have some element of luck with that. You have to, you know, work and get referrals. I would say, going back to what Kelly was saying earlier, show that you have technical experience, show that you have leadership experience. Like, make your resume be read in a way that whenever someone reads it, they're like, oh my God, this guy, this is like the fucking cream of the cream at UT Austin. You know, this guy had, you know, we have to give him an interview, right? He has such awesome leadership experience. He has such awesome entrepreneurial ventures, like whatever else. And that's all you can do, right? I mean, I applied to a ton of places, you know, places like the University of Phoenix rejected me, but I got interviews at Apple and like Lyft and Uber. Like, you just never know what you're going to get. So yeah, you just have to give it your best shot. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Cool. Is that it? It seems like I was taking a lot of time, so some people have dropped off, but thanks for chilling here. What's the general timeline for recruitment? So it's very early. Product management recruiting happens in the fall semester in the first couple of weeks. So the applications open up in like August. Yeah, most applications open up in August and close around September-ish, September, October-ish. So you want to make sure that you have all your contacts, you have a list of all of the places that you want to apply to, and that you're ready super, super early. Like, you should be preparing during the summer. And that's the same with APM internships. I mean, there are some companies that go late. Sorry, this might be dumb, but fall semester of which year? Every year. Fall semester of every year. Like, it happens every year. So
I think you might mean like with like investment banking, a lot of people have like the sophomore. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So for full time, you're usually going to recruit your senior year. Yeah. Sorry, Rishi. I was like, what are you talking about? So for full time, it happens your senior year. It's not early. Like, you don't get an early offer unless you were an intern. And so intern recruiting happens your freshman, sophomore, junior year, but 90 to 95% of the time, you're probably not going to be able to get a PM internship until your junior year, because it's just so competitive and they don't want to take any freshmen or sophomores. But obviously apply anyways, like, why, right? Like, why not? And the best way to get a product manager job or a product manager internship is to have product manager experience, which is really, really dumb because it's like chicken and the egg. But the way you go about doing that is personal projects, working at startups, yada, yada, yada. And joining TPO. That's a big move too, I guess. Okay, any more questions? Otherwise, I will log off. But feel free to join the Slack, message me, message anyone. And yeah, super glad that you guys came out. Cool. Yeah, no problem, Evan. Cool. Yeah. Bye.